Hi, my name is Alvin Anger. Thanks for watching another episode of APTV. Today, I got Emilie Fary from Baker McKenzie. Emilie Fary is a very expensive, experienced lawyer who's about to give us free advice. Emilie's going to unpack everything happening in the legal industry, particularly the retail and properties, and some advice on your 17-year career here at Baker McKenzie and what you've learned with it. So thank you very much for doing this.
Pleasure.
You're an accomplished lawyer and a mom of 3 teenagers. How have you managed to keep that all together?
I think it's a good question, and I think I seem to have held it together this far, which is a good result. I think like everything, some weeks you think, oh wow, I am like acing it as a parent. You know, I'm checking the homework, I'm managing their screen time, and then some weeks it all falls off. But on the flip side, you're going, wow, I'm doing such a good job for my clients, and they're so happy. And look at that lovely feedback I'll keep for my performance review. And I think, unfortunately, those two kind of weeks don't tend to coincide.
Just one or the other?
I think it's a bit one or the other, or it's a blend, put it that way.
Do you ever get to choose?
Yes, I think so. I think...
What's your natural choice?
Oh, I think that's a hard question.
It's a hard question.
I think that's a hard question, but I think
question.
in terms of if you can have some help, especially when the kids are little, or have some flexibility.
Your kids aren't so
good.
little anymore, are they?
No, not so little anymore.
They're in high school.
Yeah, all except one.
Can you do their homework? I can't do my kids' homework.
I can't do the maths.
It's
That's
so
why I married a doctor.
It's so embarrassing. Like, I think teachers want to just embarrass their parents.
I think so too.
We're smarter than you.
Yeah, and we're like not cool either.
No.
No.
So 17 years at Baker McKenzie, that's a very long time on any standard. What kept you here so long? Have you never been offered a job elsewhere?
I mean, I could say fear of change has stopped me moving, but that's not the case. No, I think it is actually important when you do get approached to look at those offers, because then it actually makes you really reassess, helps you to reflect actually what's working and what isn't working, because sometimes what isn't working can often be within your own control, rather than just thinking that if you go somewhere else, something will automatically be solved. So, but I think in terms of me staying here so long, Baker McKenzie does have a really good culture. For me, it's not just about the work, it's about the banter, it's about the fun, the gossip at work, being able to walk into someone's office and go, oh my God, did you see that ridiculous email someone sent me? And I think that's what makes it enjoyable. And particularly, I mean, Baker's generally is very friendly. If you have a good idea, no one's going to say no. They're going to say, great, roll with it. And I think that's been really good. And we've got an amazing team. I mean, Dora and I have been at Baker's since 2007.
For anyone who doesn't know Dora is not the Dora the Explorer.
No, Dora Stylianos, excellent
Stylianos.
esteemed partner in real estate. So Dora Stylianos and I both started in Baker McKenzie in 2007, and we are still here. So that's a good sign.
So just the two of you have been this long, or are there multiple?
No, others.
Oh,
No,
wow.
there have been others. And then prior to that, Bruce Webb was the partner and managing partner in our team. And I mean, I think he was here for 30 years.
Jeez.
So there's good longevity within our team. And we do have a new partner who joined last year, which is actually really great. The fact that she's also called Emilie, not so great. I mean, I asked her to go by her second name, but she didn't agree.
Or change your first name.
Exactly. Well,
Can you see yourself here for another 17 years?
oh, God. That is a good question. Well, I don't currently have any reason. No.
It's a long time, 17 years.
But I don't, well, I mean, I don't know I'll probably be at least 42 by then, Zelman. I think I've no reason to leave. I'm really happy, I enjoy it, and I like the banter and the team. And I don't see our team changing to a point where that would change for me.
Good.
17 years is a long time though. But
it's good. It's stability.
I've only had 2 jobs, real jobs in my life. The first was kind of 7 years, when I became a lawyer and all that, and then this job. So obviously I'm just one of those.
Did you go into law out of like kindergarten?
Pretty much, that's why I'm so young.
It sounds like it. Many lawyers seem to be moving around from firm to firm more now than ever before. Are you seeing the same thing?
I've had to think about this, and it's hard to know. I think there's always been movement, particularly at the younger levels, or people when they feel maybe they're not getting to the next level in the time that they want. I'm not sure if it's any more. I think it's generational, to be honest. I mean, look, I'm old and I'm here for 17 years, whereas I think some of the younger lawyers, there is a perception that once you qualify, you stay a year or two and then move, so that you go in knowing a lot rather than always being categorized as someone who kind of came up through the system and didn't know so much at the beginning. I think it's really person to person. I also think post-COVID, people want to go overseas. We are seeing that even within our clients. People are going to developers in Dubai and the like. and just doing different things. I think it's hard to know without any actual statistics.
Can you type as fast as you speak?
Definitely.
Really?
I can touch type, but there might be some errors. But I learned in school on a manual typewriter, and it has been the best life skill.
I can type as fast as I speak, but
Yeah.
the typing is gibberish.
Yeah.
It's no words,
But-
it's just blobs of words.
Well, then you can't. I can.
They're saying AI may replace lawyers from drafting, and lawyers will be engaged to review documents that people get AI to create. Is there any validity to that? Are you seeing that yourself?
Not really. I think two things. I think first of all, there are some really good tools to generate a first draft of a document. So there's various things that you can plug in, all the info, the basic key terms, commercial terms, like start date, end date, all that kind of thing. And that's good for producing those, particularly for law firms who do those kind of high volume leasing transactions. And I think for some basic documents, but being honest, I think, and obviously this is helpful to me as a lawyer as well, I think the nuance of documents and negotiation, I do think it can't be replaced by AI at this point in time. I think it is, this is a bit obnoxious, but it is, these documents are a bit like diamonds, and it does take all the lawyers on both sides to kind of carve all the carrots off to get it right. And you'll know yourself, for example, if you're a retail break option or a contraction right or an expansion right, there's a lot of little gets you can put in by being very careful on your drafting, which is what you put in and what you leave out. And I don't think currently there's the level of sophistication. So I'm hoping I'll still have a job in 10 years' time.
Is it coming though?
I think it's definitely, it's already here in the extent of there are tools for due diligence of high volume leases like shopping centres, which are very effective. So I think for certain tasks, it's very efficient. But I don't know if it's ever going to replace like proper review advice and negotiation.
It's also listening to your client, understanding your client wants.
And knowing their business. And I think that's at Baker McKenzie, we try to be very commercial. Like we should know the business, the drivers.
And their experiences in the past.
Exactly, correct. And I had a good example of one today, which was negotiating a heads of agreement for a tenant client. And I ensured that I put in an express obligation on the landlord to repair, because there isn't one at common law. And on another premises of theirs on which we did not act, they've had a problem with that. So you kind of have to have that combined history. And I think also when you've acted for a client for a number of years, you really do get to know how they work, what's important, what they'll give on, and that helps them.
Okay, gender equality is a very big topic in corporate Australia. What's your experience with that?
I think I've had a good experience, but obviously I wouldn't diminish the bad experiences people have had. I think generally if you're in a bigger firm, there's always going to be better compliance and standards and policies. When I started working as a lawyer in Dublin, they had only recently allowed women to wear trousers. So we've come a long way, yes. But I would say...
What did the first day of that new rule look like?
Well, it was
everyone
probably
wearing trousers?
4 years before I started, but I don't know.
So before that, it was not allowed to wear trousers?
Correct.
Wow, they've come a long way.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I do think, though, we have so many female law graduates and junior female lawyers and partners. I'm not sure if you did a cross-section of all the largest law firms, whether that correlates with principal level. Certainly within our firm, we're working hard to address that, and we have been a WGEA employer of choice. But I definitely think we would be ignoring reality if we thought the level of principals, equity partners versus salaried partners would be as gender equal as some of the other levels.
And what would you like to see? If you can make any change.
I think ideally there definitely should be more representation of women at the principal level. And I think maybe the reality of it is women are bearing more of the childcare and home duties and aged parents' roles. So, we're still very wedded to the billable hour, etc. Right? Nothing's really changed since the 50s. There probably needs to be a new model of partnership when women or people have high demands, such that maybe you can go in as an 80% partner on the basis that then your pay is proportioned, and then when you have more time or your life circumstances change, you can kind of step up. So the whole hierarchy in law firms has really been the same for a very long time. Surely there's some room for innovation there to try and address that, and generally.
Is anyone doing that?
Not that I'm aware of, but I haven't researched the topic. But I don't feel I've heard about that. Whereas in industry, we're hearing really interesting things about the 4-day week and all those kind of different, then you've got the Atlassians working from home. So there's lots of different innovation, but without being an expert in any way or having done any specific research, there probably is room for innovation in terms of law firm structuring and promotion and how that works and how they slice the pie.
Good.
But certainly, as a woman, if I look up another law firm who are on the other side and I look up, the relevant page of people and they're all men, I do kind of go, oh God, no disrespect to men. Or on a pitch, it just doesn't look great. I just think, you really want to see a bit of everything and everyone and diversity of perspective, of life experience.
Diversity of gender specifically or diversity
everything,
of other?
I think, life experience, gender, all those things.
Knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently in your career?
That's a good question.
These questions have been rehearsed, though. You know that.
I actually thought about this. I actually think when you're younger, you tend to think mentoring is a very formal thing, and you have to be assigned a mentor, and they have to be your everything. I actually think you need to realize, hey, I like what that person does, and I like what that person does. I don't really like how they do it, and hey, that person's not on my team, but let's go for a coffee. And I think maybe availing of those informal opportunities and even listening. Oh, they did that call really well, that kind of thing. And I think informal mentoring and just hoovering up people who you think are good, who you want to emulate, that's really a good thing to do.
That's really smart. Because mentoring is such like a title, but it doesn't have to be. You can learn from everyone something.
Exactly, and you can pick and choose and be discerning. Because some people you go, yeah, that's not how I manage a team.
And that's not how you came up the ranks?
I think it just took me a while to figure that out, and particularly moving as a lateral here, I think it just took me a while to realize, just to have the confidence actually to go, hey, I don't have to like everything about how someone does it. I can pick all the best things of what's kind of true to your personality.
Smart, it's good advice. You should have given that to yourself 20 years ago. Biggest mistake you've made in your career?
Touch wood. I don't think I've made any huge ones, but I do like...
It's gotta be one.
I mean, we've all missed a date here or there, but nothing awful at all. But I do like a crazy story, and I was buying for a client a large building in the city, and all this crazy stuff happened. Like part of the facade blew off. The title got stuck in a conveyor belt at TNT at the airport. I did offer to go out in a short skirt, which we wouldn't do nowadays, to see if I could procure the package. But I was told, thanks, love, but there's too many packages. And then the certificate of title was champagne damaged, and we all had to go to the titles office for them to approve that it was suitable. So it was like Reservoir Dogs, 10 lawyers and one piece of blue paper. And it passed.
And did the property actually settle at the end?
It did, yes.
And did it work out?
But it was late because of the title getting stuck in the conveyor belt at TNT.
And no one thought about that happening?
Well, that's kind of an unusual thing to happen. So yeah, but yeah, that was exciting.
And it worked out?
It did work out, but I mean, there would have been, default interest payable because it settled late.
But the champagne fixed it?
Correct.
You have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. Would you encourage them to become lawyers?
I mean, I think I'd encourage them to do what suits their skill set best, but I wouldn't discourage it because I think it is a very, I think in terms of doing law at university, very good academic rigor. There's a reason a lot of politicians, etc., and people who've done very well in business have got a law degree because you've got really good analytical skills. You're good at seeing the wood from the trees and distilling complex concepts. I also think, generally you get to work in quite a nice office with reasonable working conditions. You're not on call. You don't have to touch people, and you can go about your day. And there are opportunities for promotion where you don't necessarily have to work harder to get promoted and have a bigger salary. And I think you still remain relevant even when you're older. I'm not 25 anymore, but I think in some industries you might be starting to get a bit old and irrelevant. So I wouldn't discourage them if that was how their inclinations lied. And I am one of 4 children, and we are 4 lawyers.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And your parents?
And my dad, yeah, also.
Wow.
Yeah, so obviously we weren't encouraged. In fact, we were told, can you not do something more exciting like architecture or advertising?
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
You're all lawyers?
Yes, but when you're not very good at maths or musical, then the options are limited. You only need to know 6-minute units as a lawyer. You see, it's easy.
Right. That is interesting. Baker McKenzie is a global firm, and you have global clients that work across Southeast Asia and across the world, for that matter. You particularly focus on property. Are you seeing any trends in the retail space from your global clients?
I think for us, obviously, we have a strong Australian retail practice, and then we also do work around APAC in all the key jurisdictions. I think what we're seeing is that it's kind of a two-speed. On the one hand, brands are very keen to get in and secure those flagship stores very well ahead of time. But on the other hand, there is a hesitancy with the slowdown of sales in China and uncertain economic headwinds. So I think there's the bit of that two-speed. The other thing we're seeing is it is really important for brands, particularly to assist with their online sales, to have those really amazing flagship stores, and particularly to have amazing, unique retail experiences, whether it's special rooms for valued customers or, there's lots of Mother's Day activation events. And then around, all the Chinese New Year, all those festivals, etc. And I think particularly post-COVID and before, the shopping centres have always been really strong in Asia, and they're all super fancy and amazing. And I think that's, it's about having that flagship presence.
You're not what you'd call a cheap lawyer.
Correct.
Right. So being an expensive lawyer, do you have any free advice for landlords?
I think I do. I think the three things that probably are always front of my mind are actually for both landlords and tenants. The first is heads of agreement. Always get your lawyer involved at the beginning. We never fail to add value. It doesn't mean agents aren't fantastic.
But you slow it down.
But ask the lawyer for a light touch of anything critical. But I think that's important.
2 months later.
Yeah, no. Number two, so I'm heads of agreement, I think it's really important. And the other two, make good, right?
Yeah.
People always think, worry about that at the end, worry about it at the beginning. It is a huge cost. Try and be creative as a tenant.
Both landlords and tenants.
Yeah, try and be creative on both sides of an ability to pay in lieu or ability to require the tenant to pay in lieu. It is so expensive, it's a time suck, you can't trade while you're making good, and generally it's certainly not the tenant's core business. And you don't want to come a cropper and have your bank guarantee encashed. Disaster. And then the other thing I suppose I'm hot on is market rent reviews. Do not leave it to the last minute. Really, you should be trying to use your option as your ability to exercise your option as a leverage point to see if you can get a better deal. Obviously, the landlord does not have to agree to that, but it can be mutually beneficial. It may be that in exchange for a concession, the landlord gets a longer renewal term out of the tenant. So be on the front foot. Don't ever have the situation where someone buries a rent review notice, doesn't reply, and then you get stuck with a huge rent because it's deemed accepted. So be on the front foot, way ahead, do your research.
That's for a tenant side, but you're not specifically a tenant lawyer. You work on both sides.
Both sides.
And for landlords, hide the
Same
market
thing.
review as much as you can. Make sure the tenant
Serve it
doesn't know
on
about
Christmas
it.
Eve. No. I think at the end of the day, right, it's not like buying and selling where you can say sayonara. Under a lease, it is a marriage whether you like it or not. And, do unto others. So if you treat them badly, people are going to be sneaky. So if you can try and have a dialogue and have a working relationship, it's going to be better for both parties at the end of the day. And then there's a bit of give and take.
But even these big organizations that you're not dealing with individuals, you're dealing with companies. Like how do you do that?
Yeah, that's true. That's a good question. I think probably as a tenant, by doing what you're supposed to do most of the time and paying on time and the like, probably trying to get a specific contact within that organization so you have a liaison and explaining to them it's because then if there is an issue on either side, a bit like a parent-teacher conference, we can have the dialogue. So I think that's important. And also, as a landlord, obviously you should be acting within the terms of your lease, but obviously we know it's not always that simple. But sometimes, you do catch more flies with honey, generally, as they say.
That's a very good free advice from an expensive lawyer.
Thank you.
Most avoidable mistakes you see out there?
I'd probably say insufficient clarity around the heads of agreement. And I'd also say people just not realizing, that they need to have rigorous legal review. It's, you can tell within 2 seconds if I get provided with a lease, I can tell if it was negotiated or not. And I did have an example recently where we had to give advice on a lease on which we weren't involved at the time. And the heads was really good. And I thought, oh, that's a really good negotiated heads. And then I looked at the lease and none of the concessions were in there. And I actually said, you know, I kind of queried, did it get legal review? And they're like, oh, we don't really remember. But that's, you know, and then you've just got a big mess of you know, what's going on.
But does the heads agreement carry any weight once a lease gets signed?
No, because typically they're non-binding, and you know they're non-binding until such time as the document agreed between the parties is entered into. So I think, you know, take advice from a lawyer generally.